Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Reco12 podcast. I apologize for being late. I was actually, thanks to my program of recovery and to a higher power who loves me and loves all of you, here 10 minutes early, but he wanted me to exercise my patience muscle. Reco12 is a special online platform promoting recovery with podcasts and different resources online. You could check us out by Googling Reco12. And also, if you like what you hear here, you can be in touch with us there, and we'll get back to you if you want to hear more about our speaker. And if you're interested in sharing your experience, strength, and hope on the Reco12 platform, whether in our Afro-Euro time zone, where I'm the host, or in US time zones, just let us know. We're always looking for more speakers and always looking to be your fellow, supporting you in working your step 12. This meeting and all Reco12 activities, roundtables, noodle it out with Nikki, etc., are self-supporting in our seventh tradition. And you could pay forward your seventh tradition online by PayPal or Venmo and all that jazz. I'll be posting those instructions in the chat shortly. And without further ado, I welcome my special fellow, Nicola B. She'll be sharing with you a little bit about herself and her story. And Nicola, we're so grateful to have you here today. And we're so grateful every time another recovered person is working their 12 steps. I want you to all just, for a nanosecond, let's all just take a deep breath and realize that that one point of light, that recovered person working a 12th step by sharing and sponsoring and working with others, is lighting up and saving the lives of so many others. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of that network. Take it away, Nicola.
Thank you very much, Karen, for inviting me here today. So my name is Nicola. I'm from Manchester, England, and I am a recovered alcoholic and an addict, and very grateful to be here today. Just to quickly qualify, I have an obsession of the mind, an allergy of the body. So I have a lie in my head that tells me, even though I have 20 years proof and experience that I cannot drink like other people, the liar in my head creeps in and tells me every once in a while that I can. And so if I fall victim to that delusion, that lie, and I pick up just one drink, it triggers the allergy of my body, which means I want more and more and more, and I cannot stop. So what was life like before I took the steps? I was having trouble with personal relations. I could not control my emotional nature. I was a prey to misery and depression. I could not make a living. I had a feeling of uselessness and no purpose in life. I was driven by 100 forms of fear and self. I was terribly unhappy. I believed there was no hope for me. I was just going to carry on until the bitter end. I couldn't seem to be of real help to people. And I was all of those things sober too, before I ever picked up a drink or a drug, without them. I was blotting out the consciousness of my intolerable situation with drink and with drugs. I was destroying the lives of people around me, mainly the ones I loved the most. I was not living, I was just existing, and I was dying inside. So what happened to me on the 26th of September 2022, somebody in the program made the approach to me. They were a recovered alcoholic addict, and they came out and made the approach to me. And I'm now clean and sober, but as well, I am happy, joyous, and free today. How beautiful is that from where I've come from just short of 14 months ago? So I don't subscribe to doing a drunkalog here today. So what I will do is I will go through the big book with you, and I will tell you about the parts. Where do I get this happy, joyous, and free? Page 98 tells me, burn the idea into the consciousness of every man that he too can get well, regardless of anyone. The only condition is that he trusts in God and clean house. So through doing the 12 steps with willingness, honest and open-mindedness, I was able to make conscious contact with God, a God of my understanding. That's a beautiful thing. This isn't a religious program, it's a spiritual one. So you can find the God as you choose and have a God of your own understandings. Why not get the most powerful one, the one that moves mountains for you? You know, that is what I needed. So in another page in the big book, it tells me with few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource, which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. So when I take the 12 steps and I make that decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand him, and I start to clean house and trust God, I slowly start to let him take over. You know, the steps eases you in slowly. You don't have to give up that control all at once. And that was great for somebody like me who spent a whole life controlling things. But when I took the 4th and 5th step, I found that I had been trying to bend the world to suit my needs, to suit me, Nicola, every day from a very young age, with or without alcohol and drugs, expecting people to know what I want them to do, sometimes without even opening my mouth and telling them. How insane is that? You know? So for someone like me, not only beat up with the consequences of my drinking and using for 20 years, but also carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders alone, be able to hand the weight of the world over, take it off my shoulders and hand it over to let somebody else, to let God take that weight of the world off me today, is a beautiful experience and a wonderful way of living. Page 63 in the big book tells me, as we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully for the first ever time for me, as we became conscious of God's presence, we began to lose our fear of today, of tomorrow, of the hereafter, and we were reborn. So what does it mean for somebody like me to be reborn? What does that look like for me today? Well, when I came into the 12-step program, I was dead inside. My body was alive, my blood was pumping, my heart was beating, but I was dead inside. I had no spirituality. I was not living, not enjoying life. The illness of alcoholism for which I was suffering had isolated me so terribly. I felt like a black sheep constantly. I felt like nobody liked me and nobody cared what I had to say. And today I sit here with a purpose, enjoying life. How is that? Because I was lucky enough to find these rooms. Not everybody makes it here. If you're here today, you are a miracle. You are a miracle of God. And I did what was suggested. I got a big book, I got a sponsor, I took the steps, and I had the vital spiritual experience that the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous talks about. I had the entire psychic change, the change in the way I think. It has changed for me today. I will not sit on my pity pot today. You know, I choose to be better. I do not sit in my stinking thinking today, worrying about me. I pick up my kit of spiritual tools that were laid at my feet. And what do I do? What do I do with that? What's not to be happy about that? You know, I have a kit of tools today. Page 19 tells me that we felt that elimination of our drinking was but a beginning. A much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupation and affairs. You know, this talks about the steps we took. See, the book says the steps we took, not the steps we read and talked about in meetings, not the steps that I can repeat and recite, but the ones that we go out there and take. It's a program of action. We get up and we do these steps. So the spiritual steps I took that I needed to do, I had to get up, get out there, put the action in and apply them in all my affairs, that page tells me. Love and tolerance is our code. So therefore, I need to show it in my everyday life, show people with my actions, not just in the rooms, outside of them too, in my home and all my other affairs. even to the people who are not so loving and tolerant of me. And that can be a bit of pill to swallow some days, but I show up and I do it because I live in God's world now, not Nicola's. Not everything is about me today. Some days it's harder than others, but I live a happy life as I can claim progress rather than spiritual perfection today. And I work my program hard daily. I was 4 months, this is what I got from this. I was 4 months clean and sober when my daughter turned 4 years old. I was 12 months clean and sober the month that she started school for the first ever time. This means that when she comes home from school tired and cranky with a sassy little attitude, today I am there. And I want to be there. I enjoy life today. I'm present today. I didn't come in from the madness where I was an unpresent mother to sit on meeting after meeting, ignoring her and being an unpresent mother yet again. This means that I get a tight ass schedule. I find a balance. I show up for that little girl today, bodily, emotionally, and spiritually. Why do I have a tight ass schedule today? Is it just because my sponsor keeps telling me that? No, it is not, but thank you. Page 88 tells me that we alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us. I have a calendar on my bedroom wall with my service on, my regular meetings on, my sponsor step work, my sponsor meeting, my obligations for my daughter, my hospital and my doctor appointments. Yes, I show up to those today to make a living amends for my health, for what I did to my health out there. I get a great sense of happiness today from ticking all those things off that little calendar on my wall. It gives me a purpose today. Why? Why does that make me so happy? Because I didn't let anyone down today. I got up and I showed up, and that feels good today. Page 88 in your big book, Faith Without Works is Dead. This is an action program. Show up and do the work. Page 83 tells me this spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. This is a lifestyle for a lifetime, as my sponsor likes to say, and it feels good today. What is not on my calendar today? Things that Nicola wants to control, things that I want to be doing. What do I do today? I do the things that I should be doing, the next right thing. I stop doing what I want and I start doing what I need to be doing today. Page 63 tells me we become less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more we become interested in what we could contribute to life. What can I do today that is not about me? I go and feed the homeless once a week. What a joy that is. Beautiful. My sponsor said, get a senior, get a hobby. So being of an addict mind, I kill two birds with one stone. I go out, I get a senior who's 79 years old and can get quite lonely because she lives alone. And she teaches me Spanish now on a Thursday with some other friends on a Zoom room from the fellowship. And what a beautiful thing that is. What a joy that brings me today to see the happiness on that woman's face that people showed up for her to learn from her. Not about me today. I work my 12 step and I give freely to others what was freely given to me. I have a constant stream of newcomers I take through the steps in the big book sponsorship guide way. I do impromptu book studies and my old fellowship Pass It On Zoom. And my sponsor said, get out there and create your own 100. How do I do that? It's in the big book. Funnily enough, page 164 tells us God will show me how to create the fellowship I crave. And he did. And me and my God squad, we put the action in, we got up, we took some time out of our schedules, and we started a beautiful little old fellowship Zoom group called Pass It On Bill's Way, where everyone is welcome. It's a lovely little community of people from all fellowships to come and recover together. As the recovered alcoholic and addicts, we carry the message. We make the approach to newcomers. We have a home group speaker meeting on a Friday and gratitude and meditation every morning, every day of the week. And it's such a beautiful way for me to start my day. That is how I choose to today. I get a lot of joy from helping others there. Page 132 in your big book tells us we aren't a glum lot. If newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. That tells me that when there's newcomers in the meetings, I tell them about the solution in the Big Book of AA today. I don't subscribe to drunkalogs. The Big Book of AA has everything I need to tell them. They don't need to hear how miserable my life was before. They know that. They've lived that themselves. What they need to hear is the solution here in these rooms today, and that they too can recover and enjoy life. Was life miserable out there before recovery? Yes, it was. But page 133 tells me two things. We cannot subscribe to the belief that this life is a vale of tears, though it once was just that for many of us. And also, we are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. So do I believe my big book? Do I believe in a God of my own understanding? Yes. Do I believe this 12-step program can work for me? Absolutely. I too can be happy, joyous, and free, and so can you. Does life show up for me today, doing what life does on life's terms? Absolutely. Do I have any control over that today? Absolutely not. God is large and in charge today in my life. God is driving the bus towards this new life for me. So I pick up my kit of spiritual tools laid before me again. Page 87, we pause when agitated or doubtful, and we ask for the right thought or action. Praying is asking, meditating is listening to God. Two-way relationship, that's so important. And, God, He's my friend today. If I asked you to be my friend and you said yes, and then you didn't speak to me for 6 months, why am I going to show up when you need me the most? I keep a close, conscious contact, a relationship going with God. I check in on Him every single day and see that I'm doing God's work. So then He will want to continue this relationship with me, and He will help me when I need Him. I believe that today. So page 103, we shall be a little use if our attitude is one of bitterness and hostility. So I don't do what I want. I do the next right thing. Some days harder than others, but I continue to show up and do the work. I have to remember that page 132 tells me cheerfulness and laughter make for usefulness in this program, and this is the only easy life I have ever known. Why? Because I'm not running the show today. God is. He is a father. I am his child. Page 132. When I am willing to do the right thing, I am rewarded with an inner peace no amount of liquor could ever provide. When I am unwilling to do the right thing, I become restless, irritable, and discontent. Another spiritual tool I've been given here in this beautiful 12-step fellowship is that when all else fails, work with another alcoholic will save the day. What do I do if it's that bad? I go and work with my sponsee. I have numerous sponsees. I've taken a lot of people through the work in my time, and I now have a grand sponsee today, which is a beautiful thing. That is another joyous moment in my sobriety. When times get tough, I'm not about to sit on my pity pot today. I remind myself I'm an intelligent agent, a spearhead of God's ever-advancing creation. I have become a seeker. I go out and I look for God. I seek Him. I actively do this stuff. And the grateful thing is, God is not playing hide and seek with me today. He's not. He's just there. He wasn't lost. I was lost. I was lost because of the way I was living, So I get up, I show up, and I do God's work. And He's there for me. And what I say to God every day is, my sponsor told me this, the 4 obsessions. I obsessed about drink and drugs pretty hard back in the day. And now today, I choose to obsess about gratitude. Thank you, God, all day, every day. Helpful, wanting nothing in return. Loving of others, tolerant of others. And you know what my sponsor told me? The best thing, others includes myself. Be loving of myself today, be tolerant of myself. What do I do for myself? I go swimming. Sometimes I just have an hour on my own without my daughter. And that's what I need today. So if you don't have a big book, go out there and get one. This book was written over 80 years ago by someone who was 4 years sober, so I believe. I don't know everything today. I have to do the set aside prayer many times in a day. And he had no formal qualification in writing, no skills of writing. Yet this book is miraculous. It is still relevant today in 2023 and has helped millions of people all over the world to recover. And if they can, why can't you? You can have this if you work this program. The book is spiritual, so as you grow in your spirituality, it grows with you, and you always find new things. So the best thing I can say to everyone today is never put the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous down. Never put it down. Keep growing. And I think I am done there, Karen. I think I've said all I need to say. So thank you for letting me come and share, and keep trudging, everyone. Thank you.
Wow, Nicola, thank you so much. That was amazing. You packed in a lot of, and what I'm hearing here is a woman who has a sponsor. She has a working student to teacher relationship with her sponsor. She is connected to a higher power that she keeps in constant contact with. Like she said, I love what you said. You don't just check in on him every 6 months. You're there just like you are for your little kid. And I relate to that as a mother of small children. I'm there for my kids. I'm there talking to higher power. I'm there with fellows. She's there with her sponsees, working with others. And she's active in her fellowship. And that's keeping her sober. I promise you, people on the line, that Nicola is getting more out of that than any of all those beautiful people she's touching. She's the one who hit the jackpot. And I know, because I'm living that same lifestyle. Lots to be learned here in terms of diving into the big book, following the instructions, not, simple, not easy, one day at a time, but we got to do this. No one promised us an easy ride here. And certainly the mess we were living in before was much harder. We have a question here, and I wrote down a few of my own. One of our listeners here is asking, do you listen to any recovery podcasts that have helped you along your journey?
Oh, this is just great. I was actually terrified of coming on here today. I had to pray the fear prayer to God lots and lots and lots, because, sometimes I don't believe in myself as much as God believes in me. But Reco12 is the first podcast I ever listened to. And since then, I was sent a beautiful, it put into a group on WhatsApp, which is Audio Anonymous. So those two things, I now listen to Sobercast too, with the old timers, but I find Reco12, I like Cameron F, Nikki M, obviously. I listen to stuff like that. I listen to it in the car. I listen to it at home on my own. And, it just gives me that boost for the day ahead. I would highly recommend listening to podcasts. So Reco12 and Audio Anonymous, really. So, thank you for that.
Yeah, I listen to all those things too. I'll chime in for our listener and say the Reco12 podcasts are great. The Audio Anonymous is fantastic. And a lot of times I see sometimes, when agitated, we pause, but our big book tells us we're not supposed to just be, recovery junkies who don't have a life and don't have friends and don't have a job. We're supposed to be, good citizens, first and foremost, kind, loving family members, good employees. Sometimes at the office, though, my disease gets me, my demons get me, and I get in a bad mood, or someone, snaps at me, and I have to do the pause land thing. When agitated, we pause. So sometimes while I'm doing my work, I will put on a Reco12 podcast. Nikki M has this great little round table where you can find some 50-minute shots or injections, pun intended, quick hits of recovery, which are just great when sometimes you got to keep going, as a mom, I'm going to a wedding. I have to be there by a certain time. I can't now go and meditate for an hour. So, you can collect yourself, listen, get a quick God shot and keep going. Or at work, I'll try and do some busy work at my computer and listen to a podcast. And those are really helpful. I'd like to know a little bit about the transition. You were deep in your disease. You worked your 12 steps, and something changed over when you started working with people. Can you talk about that? What was the change, whether it's, the spiritual experience you're living with, or, the promises, take the question in whichever way you relate to it in your recovery.
So the biggest change for me in my recovery was finding God. I was someone who the promises say sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And it came slowly, the God idea to me. I was running around like a headless chicken looking like, can somebody tell me how to get to God? And I just wasn't getting it. And then I sat and I listened to the podcast, and I went on the Spiritual Gangsters meeting where I saw Nikki M. And I was like, I want what she's got. She talks about God, and she says, don't ever shy away from talking about God. I want what this woman's got. And so I decided to change up my sponsorship. And I got a sponsor in the Big Book sponsorship guideway. And what I actually wanted was to ask Nikki to sponsor me, but I was too scared. I thought it wasn't good enough. And, God will do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. Because little did I know, a few months later down the line, Nikki's now sponsoring me. So God gave me what I needed, someone powerful in my recovery that gives me the confidence, tells me, you can do this. You can do this. We should all have people around us that tell us we can do this. So I believe the Big Book sponsorship guide was a big change for me. That's when I really started getting it, and I started feeling very God conscious, and it changed up my recovery. And I implore anyone who wants to, that's the way I sponsor now. Anyone who wants to go through it, give me a call. I always put my numbers in meetings. There's lots of beautiful people out there that sponsor in that way. And I'd advise anyone to give it a go. But that was the game changer for me in recovery. And that's how I started to be really well and happy, joyous and free, rather than just clean and sober. But thank you for that.
Amazing. And it would be great, Nicola, if you could go ahead and put your number in the chat here. I'll do the same. If anyone wants to reach out to Nicola to either sponsor her, to be connected with available sponsors, this is a fellowship where we all work with others to save ourselves. So you can be in touch with Nicola about that. I'll paraphrase, in her words, if you need help, reach out to her. That's her job. That's my job. We're here to be helpful. Tell me about your schedule. How do you manage your time? I know I also work very closely with Nikki, and actually Nikki was the one who told me to call you. Not only were you scared, but she was the one who told me that you have great recovery and I should be in touch with you about the Afro-Euro podcast. Now, actually, before I continue with my question, I just want to share with you all that when I spoke to Nicola, she was more trepidatious. This is actually, even the woman I spoke to on the phone a couple of weeks ago was not the woman I see before me now. And the Big Book talks about this in step 2, right? We have tapped into a new power. See, we realize that powerlessness. I'm not good enough. What do I have to say? Who will listen to me anyways? There are other charismatic speakers and professionals and talented people. But see, a power has come into this woman, even as we speak, even on and off during the day. We can get into our character defects, right? This is a lifestyle for a lifetime. We can get into insecurity, our smallness, our bashfulness, our self-doubt. But if we're working an active program, working in 10, 11, and 12, we ask God to remove these fears, these character defects. We pray for him to remove them. And then we turn to someone else we can help. She's doing that. She's taking care of that in her nightly review. So I know even if I spoke to a fellow who was a little insecure yesterday, by tomorrow morning, when they've done a nightly review and they're on awakening, they should be reborn, for the next day. And I just want to say that I'm hearing a lot of step work in here. I'm hearing a lot of step 2. A power has come into you, Nicola. I'm hearing step 10, 11, and 12, just because you had a moment there, and I'm you and you are me, just because I had a moment there of doubting myself and feeling, little and lame and whatever, doesn't mean I'm going to be there next time. Because when I do the right thing, right, these are the promises of the big book. When I do the right thing, when I'm doing my job, being of service and being of helpful, God does for me what I could not do for myself. And that's what you're seeing here in front of you, people. If anyone else would like, please share your questions here. Nicola, you know what? I'm gonna go to a different question because this is really important to me. A lot of you people are in the 12 steps. Some people get stuck in step 4. I have a lot of my sponsees who were sponsoring people and they're stuck in step 4. They're stuck in various forms of selfishness and fear. How do you work with others? How do you make the approach? Where do you make the approach? Where do you pick up your clients, your sponsees?
Well, currently, my all fellowship group that I talked about in a small way in my speaker there, I have a Zoom group called Pass It On Bill's Way. It is all fellowship, and we have a WhatsApp group, which is where I created my first 100. It took about a month and a half, and it's a beautiful place. And people come in. We have some people from a recovery centre over in Scarborough, beautiful, beautiful recovery centre where one of my closest friends in recovery started to get well and found, that she too could have this. They come in, so we get people out of the treatment centres, we can sponsor. Newcomers come in from other meetings. We post flyers in other great meeting WhatsApp groups. I do service at face-to-face CA meeting on a Wednesday over in Oldham, a beautiful meeting. I'm alternate chair and I do meeting and greeting still because I love meeting and greeting. I love welcoming the newcomers in. So I do get sponsees from there as well. So there are many different ways, but I like to change up my meetings. I like to go on the newcomer meetings. I do mainly book studies because I am really into the big book, but I do try and do at least one newcomer meeting a week just so that I can be of help to the newcomer. And I did actually get a new sponsee that's on here now through a big book study, a very well big book study on a Sunday and Monday. So yeah, that's how. You muted.
Amazing. And what you want to hear, people, here is that people who are sponsoring Recover, you can make the approach in different ways. You can go to people one-on-one and talk to them. You could share in a meeting. I just had, God said me something interesting this morning after my exercise class. I was talking to a woman who's studying to be a therapist. We were talking a lot about different therapies we've done. And I said to her, I really can't withhold my biggest secret weapon from you, is that with all the therapy and all the personal growth and meditation I've done in the past, 40 some odd years of my life, the thing that helped me most not to get hurt by everything, not to get angry, to deal with people and relationships better is the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I shared, she may or may not be an addict. She happens to be overweight, but I really 12-stepped her. And if we really want to work this program, if we have that honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, God will present different opportunities for us to share. And that person, that drowning person, may or may not, take the life ring, but we've done our thing, right? And the big book talks about this. And maybe this is a good segue into another question, Nicola. When alcohol becomes troublesome, and I know Nikki likes to say in here, Reco12, we like to say you could really edit, replace any addiction or affliction. So when people become troublesome, for me, it's when parenting, motherhood becomes troublesome. When food, I came into these rooms through Overeaters Anonymous. When I'm constantly thinking about what I'm going to cook for my next meal. When spending gets troublesome, so sometimes I'm not in my primary addiction, but I say I just dropped $250 at the supermarket now. Thank God I have the money, but I know working an active program, I know to recognize that that's my addict motor that's kind of running, when I'm doing a little bit of a shopping spree. So when something gets troublesome, we throw ourselves harder into working with others. Nicola, maybe you can open your vest a little bit and, get vulnerable and share about, when something gets troublesome, how do you detect that? And what are your immediate next steps when you notice that something's, getting troublesome for you? How do you get into that working with others? Talk about that process.
So that comes from the part in the book where it says when sex is troublesome, and I've got sex crossed out, and I've got when life is troublesome, because that happens. Life shows up for me, not everything is perfect. It's not a bed of roses. So I'm very blessed that I've created a beautiful God squad around me of very well people who sometimes know that something is going on for me before I check it myself, and they'll say, Nicola, I think you're struggling with this. Nicola, you don't sound right today. Is there something going on? And, I use them. The first thing I do is I go to God. Then I go to my God squad. Then I go to my sponsor if it still continues to be bad. Step 10s are a big part. We've got this wonderful tool on the internet called rapidstep10.com. And I love to use that. My very good friend Kirsty told me about that, and it's probably been one of the best tools I've been given. So I do a rapid step 10 there and then, you can do it on your phone, you can do it off your laptop at home. Or I just do it the old school way if I don't have either of those things. And my nightly inventory is important to me. But yeah, there's so many ways of going through that. It just said work. When all else fails, work with another alcoholic will save the day. I get into my big book. We do impromptu book studies. So I find that sometimes I'll just be like, put a flyer out, like, does anyone want to do their doctor's opinion? Does anyone want to do, I don't know, working with others? Something that relates to me that day. Bill's story, does anyone want to come and work with me for an hour? Yeah, Justin, I'll send you an invite to the impromptu book study. You're more than welcome. And yeah, it's funny you talk about Overeaters Anonymous, because we've actually got a girl in our fellowship that's just starting one for OA next week, going through the big book in the way of that. So that'll be a really beautiful thing, to get more OA people into our Alpha Fellowship group. I really believe in that. So, and could probably use some of that work myself. But yeah, those are the tools I try. I go to my God squad, I go to my sponsor, I do my step 10s, I do a nightly inventory, and I just try and be a better person than I was yesterday. People can get me some days, and I have to pause when agitated. That power of pause is so important, because if I don't pause, I can turn into like a rampaging maniac, and I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. The book tells us we are not saints. We practice progress, not perfection. But I try my hardest, and I try to be better than I was yesterday. And that's what matters, I think. So, yeah, thanks, Karen.
Amazing answer. Amazing answer. And I want to flesh that out a little bit. What Nicola is saying, try and be a better person. That's not something ethereal. That means, I happen to be here in Jerusalem, Israel. I didn't mention that before. My country is in war. It's horrific here. I know that we have, funerals of many fallen soldiers and citizens and air raid sirens in all cities across the country. So it's like yesterday was the celebration of the new moon. It's a minor Jewish holiday. So I went to the store and I bought some fruit and nuts, right? Because I'm an OA, I'm always thinking about food. And I put it out for my team. And then I said, hey, let's make, the ritual blessings on the food and answer amen. And we'll do it in the merit of our nation and our people and our soldier and the healing of the wounded. Like there's no, that's just one really out of the box way. I've also gotten a senior, per Nikki's advice, gone downstairs. I live right next door to an old age home, and gone there on the Sabbath to visit them when they're down and lonely. And they're so grateful. Yeah, and it's so good. My little kids benefit, my little girls benefit learning about loving kindness and making the world a better place and being of service. And hopefully they won't even have to be addicted to know that, right? So all you really got to do is open your eyes and look around. If you're a wedding, pour a glass of Diet Coke for the person sitting next to you, or go and tell everyone you see who looks good. Say, take your brain off mute. I love your dress. I went up to a stranger last night at a wedding and said, I love your dress. It was really special. But it's like we walk through life and we even think nice things here and there, and we don't put them on loudspeaker. There are so many ways to be of service. So, and that, this is a lifestyle. This is in all of our affairs. Talk to me about the family afterwards, Nicola. How has this changed your family life? How are you changed as a mother, as a daughter, as a relative? I mean, I don't know your family tree or any of that, so I apologize if I, inadvertently, talk to me about the family afterwards in your life.
So my mum, I think my mum is the one that probably suffered the most with my addiction and my drinking. And she became very snappy, like instant. She was the most calmest person ever, but the way I was acting, the way I was thinking, the way I was behaving started to have an impact on her, as it does. It's a family illness. And so she became very snappy because she was always treading on eggshells, wondering what is Nicola going to do next? Is she going to be here? Is she not? Is she going to come in shouting and raving? It's not nice to think like I don't have the luxury of sitting in morbid reflection about what I've done to people, because it'll send me back out there. So I made my amends to my mum. I'm accountable today. I'm making a lifetime amends to her through being a good daughter and remaining sober and clean. But yeah, I don't have the luxury of drifting back all the time. But today, she is starting to recover. She's calming again. She's becoming calm again. She's becoming more serene. She's getting her serenity back. And I had 20 years of living that way, and I'm less than 14 months into the program. It's not an overnight matter. It is to continue for a lifetime. So I've got to show these people with my actions. It says in the book something about those who have lived with a drinker, like it's a lifetime of stuff. Like, they're not going to believe you. We said so many I'm sorry. I used to go to mum, I'm sorry, please can I have some money? I'm sorry, please will you look after my kid while I go out again? So I'm sorry means nothing. I show that lady today with my actions. I show up and be a good, caring, quieter, calmer version of myself. When I started to get well, my voice went down a few notches. I just became calmer. The serenity flows through me. And my daughter is absolutely thriving today. If she'd have started school when I was out there living as I was, the chances are she wouldn't have made it to school most days, because I wouldn't have been fit to take her. And I was so selfish. It wouldn't have bothered me. Today, I show up. She gets to school on time. She's clean. Her clothes are clean and ironed. Her hair is done. She loves to have plaits. I sit and plait her hair. We play the Nintendo Switch. We play Mario Party together. 3 years ago, I would have never been sat there doing that for someone else. And you know what? It's actually quite good. I quite like it. But I take her to musical theatre, I take her to gymnastics, her swimming lesson. She's absolutely excelling at swimming, and I'm there on the sidelines cheering her on. Go on, Remy, you got this. And it's a beautiful way of living today. But yeah, my family are starting to recover. But it does say, it might take them longer to recover than when we start to. But, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep getting up and showing these people, this is how I live now. If you choose to join me, my daughter goes to church. My daughter goes to a church school, and she's got a very good.
I gotta cut you off here because you said something really amazing here. We just gotta dive into that. I want you to hear about this. This is a mother that was out to lunch, to put it mildly, and I only relate because I'm one of those too. Today we sit and play board games with our child. She plays Mario with her child. She is there. Somebody's home. There was nobody home. I mean, there was a home wrecker, right? Not just nobody. Nobody home would be a step up from what the past was. right? I do this too, and I don't even like board games. I play card games. I thought I just didn't like games. I realized I just was selfish. I took my girls to weddings. I dance with them. I sit with them at the table. They're not just a nuisance, and they're getting, her daughter is getting the benefits of a recovered mother, and she too is recovered. And I don't even think we need to go into all the ins and outs. She goes to church. That's great. She's getting spirituality too. And I so relate to this. I also have a daughter who's a compulsive overeater. And after so many years in program, she just finally, when I let go, I'm also an Al-Anon, started going to the gym. She's starting to watch her weight. She lost 3 kilos this week. Like, our kids get better so long as we recover. And sometimes they don't. And that will be our job, to live in acceptance. And in our fellowship, we work the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous for Al-Anonism as well, for our people addictions. So I really want to leave everybody with that on the family afterwards, that addiction is a family disease. Alcoholism is a family disease, and nothing will convince them more than your actions. They see a recovered woman, they see a mom, and mom, the tide rises with her. Mom steps up and the tide rises with her. We have only a few minutes, and I don't want to miss this question, Nicola. One of our people here, one of our beautiful fellows, is sharing, I was 7 months sober and relapsed. I don't know if you had any relapses, Nicola, but she's asking, how do you get motivated to get back into program after a relapse?
You get up, show up, and go again. We waste no time. The book says we waste no time. We don't have the luxury of sitting around on our pity pot. You get up, get a sponsor, go again, get the big book, get into it, get on some book studies. There's some great stuff out here. Take my number.
Yeah, take her number, call her. Stick with us. This is a powerful group. We're a group of action. We don't just sit around and quote the big book and hug and sing Kumbaya here. We mean business. I'll also share something with you. The big book says this disease starts in our mind. The disease is our thinking. It's not our drinking. That means that every time I have garbage thoughts like I'm not good enough, I can't share on the podcast, nobody loves me, I've relapsed, right? Because it's in my mind. That means I relapse regularly. And that's really what, thank God it's not to food. It's not to alcohol. It's not to men. It's not, when I just, impulse spend $250 the other day, I relapsed. But then, and I see I'm off, I'll put on a Reco12. I'll call my sponsor and I'll say, girlfriend, let's crack open your big book. How's this one? I mean, this is a little more, advanced level for the people who are sponsoring. I'm sure Nicola will relate. What about when my sponsee, who's a procrastination addict, just wants to share another story and I let her? Then I've relapsed in people pleasing. And I got to say, hey, Missy, I'm not your therapist. I'm not qualified. I'm not, as the big book says, the properly appointed authority to hear all your problems. I'm your big book guide, right? Word up. You know this. And I say to her, I heard 2 shares. Oh, and she, maybe ADHD also, which plenty of people have ADHD or, myriad afflictions. I said, I can help you with the addict part. And I promise you that a very big percentage of that mess in your mind is your addiction. So can you please read the workbook? Now, I'm not tough. I know some people throw around their weight and do tough love and yell at people. I don't rip anyone to shreds. But I know if I want to be recovered for today, I have to tell her, I cannot be of service to you. And if I'm dead serious about helping a drowning man, then I don't just stand in the love boat and throw confetti at you when you're drowning and hear another one of your dumb stories. Take the life rig. If you don't want it, I got to move on. Because there's a bunch of drowning people out there and I got to help the ones who want to be saved, I happen to be an emergency medic in my spare time. And when there's a mass casualty incident, you don't muck around. You go to the patients that you're most likely able to save. We don't use defibrillators. We don't resuscitate the dead people. We put a toe tag on them. God forbid. Shouldn't have any more mass casualty incidents. We've had way too many here in my country. But go to the person who I could save. So with that, powerful message. This is a disease in our thinking. So we've got to up our thinking and recover our thinking day in and day out. I'm going to thank you, Nicola, for your amazing share. I can't even believe you thought you shouldn't be sharing here. We need you to like do a part 2. You know, you're just amazing. So deep in the big book. I showed Nikki all those big book notes you sent me. I said, look at your proud pupil here. I was like, I know you love this. And you're just amazing. And I'd really be honored if you, we'll all just take a deep breath together and you could pray us out with the prayer of your choice. And again, Nicola put her number here in the chat. Please, please reach out to her.
So I chose the Serenity Prayer, the We version. So God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Join us again on Reco12. We're here every other week, so not next Wednesday, unless we do a pop-up big book study. By the way, Nicola, if you're ever in the mood to do a pop-up podcast, you know where to find me, sister. Thank you.
I've seen stars fall from above. I've fallen in and out of love. I've been high and I've been low. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. I've seen a boy become a man. He got lost without a plan. He's so far away from home. Now I know that I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me. Your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. I'm looking for the words to say. You make the world a better place, and I can call that place my home. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me. Your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. So let me see just what you need to set you free, so we can be free. I saw stars fall from above. I fell in and out of love. I got high and I fell low. But now I know that I just can't do this on my own. No, I just can't do this on my own. I just can't do this on my own.